Teysa Orzhov Scion versus Mathas, Fiend Seeker, Mathas. Let's have a look. Mathas, Fiend Seeker. Anyway, Mardu 3/3 with Menace. It's a vampire. At the beginning of your end step, put a bounty counter on a target creature an opponent controls. For as long as it has the bounty counter on it, it has. When this creature dies, each opponent draws a card and gains 2 life. And I don't see any reason not to get down the tap land there. Pass back over to our opponent while we go over Teysa Scion, Orzhov Scion. 3 mana for a 2/3 in black and white. Sacrifice 3 white creatures to exile a target creature. And whenever another black creature you control dies, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Now, this is... oh, this might be Mardu vampires then. Which makes me want to... I'm going to Stoneforge Mystic and see what we want to get here. Also acts as a nice blocker for the vampire there. I think we just go for the Jitte. We could go for Greaves. Greaves will be useful, but I think the Jitte will be useful also. This vampire is 3 mana, deals damage to a target creature equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on it. And if it deals combat damage to a player, you put a counter onto it. Currently Stoneforge Mystic is stood in the way of that thing. And go for their commander. Now, what do we want to do? We can't block Mathas, so why don't we just go for our commander, and then we can maybe get something going with Raise the Alarm. That is instant speed. Put 2 white soldier tokens into play, which means we can sacrifice Stoneforge Mystic and the 2 tokens to get rid of our opponent's commander. And if we consistently manage to kill the commander, yeah, then we can potentially keep them off the card draw as well. Oh, and Kaya, I was F6'd. So what is that? Exile. Yeah, I shouldn't have been F6 there. Had no idea they were going to get down Kaya. That really hurts. Yeah, that slows us down nicely. Well, in that case, we go for the Jitte at instant speed with Stoneforge, and we also Raise the Alarm. And then next turn we can dump our... oh, they fixed it. Awesome. Alright, if I'd known that, I would have done something different. Okay, well, not to worry. Yeah, usually what happens is that they will... or what used to happen before they clearly fixed it is when you exiled something, you had to actually choose to have your commander go into exile. And that went into the command zone instead of exile, but clearly they've fixed it so that effects like Kaya actually managed to bring stuff back into play as it should. So that's really good for us. That means we weren't punished for the F6. And now we can get rid of our opponent's commander before they decide to swing in. And why are there 2 triggers for the... did it have two bounty counters on it? Is that what that is? I didn't realise you could stack the bounty counters, so that is also good to know. Now we'll see if they have a means of protecting their commander. Will cost them 5 to get it back out, but they will be able to swing in with the Falconwrath Exterminator, which will put a +1/+1 counter onto it. think we go for Monastery Mentor and equip the Jitte next turn. And then when we get into things like Read the Bones and Elspeth, that will get some monk tokens into play. And our opponent decides to allow us to exile their commander. So as you can see, it's gone back into the command zone, but they've clearly fixed it so that technically that's in exile with Kaya, and it should come back again. I think it's during our opponent's upkeep. At the beginning of your next upkeep, yeah, that's right. And another token producer for our opponent. That means that when they swing in with this thing, they'll get a... Yeah, so when they swing in with the Falcon Wrath Exterminator, they'll be able to get a token with the Mevran Fiend. And there we go, lifelinking Vampire. And then that thing gets a +1/+1 counter on it. So why don't we go for... As tempting as it is to wasteland our opponent's bounce land, that is technically what we should do. But I don't feel any particular urge to play like that. We do have a board wipe in hand if things get crazy. And now Kaya will bring our commander back in. And I think next turn we might just get rid of Kaya with Utter End, because it is getting rid of blockers for our opponent, which means that this thing can swing in more easily, and the bigger this thing gets, the more of a threat it becomes. I might just block it with the Monastery Mentor as much as I don't want to. What does this thing do? Attacking creatures you control have first strike. Well, not blocking it now. Yeah, that changes things. We'd really like to get some counters onto the Jitte, so that we can minus this thing down and it can't start dealing damage to our creatures. Be really great to keep Monastery Mentor in play. As much as a pain in the neck as it is, I think I might just kill this thing with the Utter End. As much of a pain as... I just said pain in the neck against vampires. I'm not someone who's all that into puns, I swear. Yeah, as much of a pain as Kaya is, I think I'd quite like to kill this thing now that it can deal 3 damage to something. Doesn't feel good to do it, but I am going to go for that. We will get some counters going. And then we can swing in at Kaya if we want to. We can swing in at Kaya. Worst case scenario, they gang up on our Monastery Mentor and we kill a bunch of their stuff and get... In fact, we would pretty much kill everything. Okay, so they decide to block with... I don't know why they're blocking with 2 creatures. Oh, they get more +1/+1 counters onto a lender, which means we're going to have to use the... their abilities go on the stack last. So that means the Jitte won't be as good for us, unfortunately. This thing, whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And when a lander dies, create X 1/1 vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is a lander's power. So we can try and minimalise the damage coming off that. Or we could go for Midnight Haunting. And then when we get Teysa back next turn, then we can exile the Alander. Yeah, we can go for that. And I imagine they're going to swing in here, so just to minimise the number of counters they get, we're going to kill this thing. And they will of course get a +1/+1 counter on Alander. Now, Alander isn't going to die, she's going to get exiled, so they won't get the vampire tokens with that. Okay. So I think what we'll do is put the Jitte onto the monk, and then we'll go in at Kaya, and no matter what happens here we at least get some counters onto the Jitte, which is going to do a lot of work for us this game, I think. And then we'll hold up Midnight Haunting, and then when we get Teysa back we'll be able to exile our opponent's Alander and then see what we can get from there. They are of course going to be drawing into more cards thanks to Phyrexian Arena. They're tapping down mana there. I don't know why they're doing that. They might have been looking to get another card on top of their library. Maybe this thing, they were looking to see if they could draw into that off of the Phyrexian Arena. Volrath's Stronghold, if you don't know, is 2 mana and tap. Put a creature from your graveyard on top of your library. So you would see the creature card as well as another card, a fresh card from your library. We're back up to 4 cards in hand. And in response to the Kaya is doing a lot of work for them. We not only get a monk token, but we also get a couple of spirits. And we want to get rid of that Alander. So we'll sacrifice, much as I'd like to keep the flyers, to maybe get rid of that Kaya, we're going to have to sacrifice them here. And there we go, our opponent now has no creatures. They can get down their commander again at least, but I imagine they have other things in the hand that they'd like to do. And they're going to need to get some creatures down because this looks like the commander to me. Yep. Now what we can do is swing in with Monastery Mentor with the Jitte equipped. Whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. That's a cool Mardu card. Okay, so they might be able to get commander damage off on us. And they get the bounty counter on there. Alright, still no lands. I think we have to read the bones and try and start making land drops. And that also buffs the Monastery Mentor, as well as triggering the Monk effect. I might regret Gilded Lotus and Divine Visitation. That means that Monastery Mentor will throw out angels. But I really want to get into lands here. Okay, well we do get into a land. We're being pretty unlucky with our lands so far. Not sure how useful Shriekmaw's going to be. Non-black, non-artifact creature it destroys. And we'll see if our opponent feels like protecting their their Kaya. Naya, of course, is a shard from Alara. If they block here, we can just buff which we will do, and we'll kill their commander, and then we get another few counters on the Monastery Mentor, and they're doing everything they can to protect that Kaya, which I suppose is good because, well, good for them. We have 6 mana, so next turn we go for Elspeth, Sun's Champion, an absolute powerhouse at the best of times, but an absolute powerhouse in this deck because she pretty much +1 exile target creature. That's as long as you have Teysa on the field, of course. Each opponent discards a card and draws a card. Well, they're going to allow us to keep Teysa. That tells me that they don't actually have a creature in play, or a creature in their hand. Or maybe they're looking for removal on the Jitte. And that can be removed with the Sun's Champion. Oh, that's really nice. Couple of Lords. This one gives +1/+1 and first strike. It has first strike itself. And then this one gives other vampires +1/+1. Oh, Falconwrath Aristocrat as well. There's some really good vampires. I dare say if we manage to get rid of those, the game can be ours. So how do we want to do it? If we exile this one, because it gives first strike, that will take this down to a 2/2, and this one down to a 5/2. Then we can kill this with the Jitte, and then we just have a 2/2 to worry about. Yeah, I think that is a good plan. And a land would be great here. But of course we don't draw into it. Painter's Servant is a means of going infinite with all these tokens that we're about to produce. Means that we can just exile anything at will. So most likely be getting that down next turn if Elspeth survives. Our opponent has no cards in hand, but they will draw 2 next turn, so they could always get into Hero's Downfall or the Rakdos Killer Planeswalker. I can't remember what that's called. Dreadbore, is that the card? They have means of getting rid of non-creature permanents in white anyway. And then if we go... if we kill this thing with Teysa, and then we go and minus down the Aristocrat. So even if they make that thing indestructible, the minus counters get around that, as does Exile with Teysa. And now we can swing in pretty comfortably. I'm going to hold back a token. Yeah, I'm going to hold back a token just in case there's some haste coming in our way. Because if they manage to haste out their commander, well, now that they've blocked with the Jitte, we'll actually be able to kill their commander, so as long as we do it before combat, because it will get +2/+2 when it attacks. But yeah, this looks like we've got a win on our opponent here. Really cool Mardu deck to see, though. I haven't actually seen... I'm surprised I haven't seen Mathas run as a vampire tribal commander. Seen plenty of... what's the other one? Markov. Anyway, the other Mardu vampire commander, and he's really, really good in 1v1. Too good, actually. He's too powerful. And that does mean that I think he was banned in 1v1 actually because he was so good. I did run him for a period. I don't think he was unbanned during the unbanning a few months ago, a year ago, however long ago it was. Alright, getting down their commander. And we don't want to see any haste here. Oh, that's a cool one. Whenever it enters, you draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of vampires you control. We'll let them draw a couple of cards here, just for the fun of it. What we should do is use the Jitte to kill their commander before that resolves, and they'll only draw one card then. And I think they exiled Kaya, didn't they? Yeah, to put the counters back on her. So she will come back in with 5 loyalty when she was actually down to 1 before. Does mean taking a turn off, but it gets her loyalty back up. And they're getting their lord back. Does this thing have flying? It doesn't. So I'm just going to do this now. Because I don't like the menace. I'd rather be able to chump block if we have any kind of say in the matter. And we will get down Painter's Servant next turn. That's a 1/3 2-mana artifact creature, Scarecrow. We choose black when it enters, and then all cards that aren't on the battlefield, spells and permanents, are the chosen colour in addition to all their other colours. And what that means is that Teysa sees that a black creature or a black and white creature has been sacrificed, and therefore throws out another white spirit, but the white spirits are also black thanks to the Painter's Servant, and it just goes round and round in a circle like that. So we'll go for Painter's Servant, and if you watch these tokens, or all the creatures, they turn black and white. And now, if we exile this thing and we attempt to sacrifice these soldiers, Teysa sees that a black creature has been sacrificed and some white spirits come out. And now, no matter what they do, if we manage to keep the Painter's Servant in play, whenever any of these tokens die, they'll be replaced by more white tokens, and the white tokens are also black. So it pretty much means that we can exile all of our opponent's creatures as much as we feel like it. I think I'll get down the Carrion Feeder. It's always good to have a sack outlet on the field, especially if someone goes for Merciless Eviction, for instance, which they may have in their deck. And Kaya is going to come back with 5 loyalty on her. Correction Arena does of course trigger. They're up to 3 cards in hand, soon to be 4 cards when they hit their draw step. And they have... okay, they're going to go for card draw. I think we will keep our... we'll keep our Merciless Eviction, just in case they wipe the board and get a lot of vampires into play. And I don't think we're anywhere close to... oh, we're only a mana off the Runescarred Demon. We do have some reanimation effects, so we might get into that. That's 2, 4, 6. And if they can't do something this turn, then it looks like we win. We have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 exactly. We can buff the Carrion Feeder with +1/+1 counters if we want to. We can actually do that infinitely as well. We can just keep sacrificing tokens over and over again. So that's a little combat trick that we could go for. It's not one that I ever use, to be honest. It seems as though our opponent doesn't know about us being able to exile whatever creatures they get into, which is fair enough. Can't expect everyone to know about every combo that's out there. They've done well rebuilding their board. They've rebuilt a few times now. Oh, and they're going to exile our graveyard, which turns off any reanimation that we might have been wanting to get into. So we'll keep the counters on the Jitte because there's no reason to remove them. Intrigued to see what they go for here. Maybe one of our tokens would be a good idea, seeing as how we're probably going to sacrifice those. They are tapped out, so I don't mind giving them a card draw. And in fact, we will just get rid of the spirit because the monks will get buffed. But that has flying. Yeah, we won't tempt fate. We'll play it properly. And then we'll forego the monks being able to buff. And we'll forego that and instead get some evasion on the board. And I think that should be enough to get our opponent down to nothing. Yep, and our opponent sees that. We'll say, oh, okay. I was going to say GG to our opponent, but apparently they didn't enjoy that. That is Teysa, Orzhov, Scion. Can't say I've ever heard her referred to as broken before. I mean, it does take a few cards to get combos on the go. But anyway, yeah, apologies for our opponent's conduct there. Obviously, I didn't know that they had said that. That is Teysa, Orzhov, Scion. I really enjoy playing her, and I hope you enjoy watching her. So, Teysa, Orzhov, Scion. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.